Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
How many times do we have to tell people to listen to us? How many?
Thousands? 583? No, 483.
Do you recall us recommending Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin #1 in our previous things?
Yeah.
Have you heard about IDW's publishing statement on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin #1 allocation?
Yeah. And did you see why?
Yeah. Apparently,
so this is the reunion with Eastman and Laird,
which we warned you about. We told you about it. We recommended it. And I think I said I'm buying it as a graphic novel, but I wish I now had ordered one because apparently the IDW sets print quantities in advance of the final order cutoff date due to issues from trim size, paper availability, things like that. And even though they set what they say is an aggressive print run, believing the total would meet the final need, it's not going to, because final order cutoff orders were way beyond what was anticipated, and they're allocating the first print.
Yep.
So if you didn't get one or you can't get one, oh, don't worry, there'll be a second print. But I'm almost scared to look on the eBays to see how bad that thing's going up in price. Second print should be shipping fairly quick. And there's also a rare thank you variant edition that'll have red foil enhancement for retailers. That's kind of their way of saying, yeah, we messed up, but here's where you hopefully you won't be mad at us and stop carrying our stuff. So they get one free for every 75 ordered. And I really have a hard time thinking many comic shops ordered 75 or more. With a limit of 5. I don't know. I haven't heard how hot people are gaming for this, but
well, did you hear how much the first print was?
I don't remember.
110 copies, 110,000.
Which is pretty solid for an independent book.
And that's before the final offer cutoff. You know, their first print was 110,000, which is amazing for a non-image book. I mean, that's huge. It will easily be in the top 5 of comics for the month. And I don't know what it is, why everybody waited till the last minute on it, because it said right there, Eastman and Laird back together.
I'm trying to find first print. Second print's already up in price, even though I don't think they'll be as rare as people think. I'm just there's the people are starting the bids at about $10. Let's see if I can find a buy it now here, because I don't even think the book's out as we're recording yet.
No. So Joe, this is your news break. He's not paying attention because
no, I'm not. I'm trying to find. I'm on the road. I'm looking for the last Ronin. They're hovering around. They're starting at about $20 and going up.
Sounds like first printing of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Lord knows what that rare red variant will be, but so yeah, if you haven't gotten yours yet, or your comic store isn't going to hold you one, assuming they can, because I haven't heard the percentage of how people are being allocated. Hey, we can't help it if you're not listening to us.
Agreed. Joe, so that would be a news break.
Is it? I don't have anything. I haven't
you sent me an email saying that we were going to start calling these things like the CBS news break.
Well, that's the thing, though. I'm trying to find there. You remember opposite of Schoolhouse Rock, CBS had this thing. in the news, and have some funky music, and then in the background you'd hear do 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 do. I haven't found it yet, so but that's our news break.
So are we calling it news break or in the news?
Well, as long as CBS doesn't sue our asses off, we could probably call it in the news. That's Crazy Comics in the news. Hey, there we go. Do 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 do.
Show will return after In the News and these messages.
Next, another interesting story that's in the news.
Yeah, but where's the funky music? There it is. Oh.
In the news, the bus of the future goes bust. They were supposed to help carry commuters into the 21st century, but in many big cities, these buses aren't carrying anyone, anywhere. We'll be back with busted buses in the news.
There we go.
That sounds very, very 70s computerish.
It is. Well, you figure on the other side we had, I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill.
Well, Schoolhouse Rock had their own little introduction too, right?
Yeah. No, actually, they just went into it.
No, they had a. Hold on. Now I need to find it. So,
Well, now that I wouldn't mess with because that's Disney. You know they'll find us and pin us to the ground.
Rock, because it was a da 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 Schoolhouse. Ah, there it is. Found it.
As your body grows bigger,
Your mind must flower. It's great to learn.
Because knowledge is power.
It's Schoolhouse Rock the ship of the bus on your favorite Schoolhouse.
See, I don't remember them actually running that in front of every Schoolhouse Rock. They just went in.
They started it in the late 70s.
Okay, by that time I was probably bailing on this stuff already.
Yeah.
But yeah, because that was always the big thing. You know, the shows would end 5 minutes earlier, a couple commercials, and then you'd have a Schoolhouse Rock. And if it wasn't one I liked, I could go over to In the News on CBS. I don't recall NBC doing anything cool
No,
like
NBC couldn't possibly give less of a
that. No,
shit.
they couldn't care. Now I don't even know if there are cartoons on Saturday morning. You
No.
kids in your 24-hour Cartoon Network.
On CBS, it's the information and educational show, because they say when you see this symbol, it means this show is both educational and informational.
Ooh.
I should look and see if I can find that in the news theme. Ooh, there's the college football theme.
We don't need NFL against us. We already got CBS, ABC, and WWE. Oh, there we go, boy. Folks, if we're not here next week, it's because Cory likes to run all these copyrighted themes all over our podcast here.
But in the news, recently, UCS Distribution said that they are no longer going to be carrying DC Comics, Joe.
Which is Midtown Comics, for those of us that know the retail behind them.
And is basically the only comic company that they were distributing for.
And everybody lost their stuff. Oh my God, they're leaving it. But until I think it was you who posted, yeah, well, their contract was only for 6 months, and they decided not to renew.
Yeah. UCS said that both they and Lunar had signed a 6-month deal. It's been 6 months. UCS is getting out of it.
Yeah, they don't want. Can you blame them?
Not really, because you have to remember, they may have a mail distribution, they may have a mail subscription service, but it's not that big. When you are doing comic distribution, your margins are tiny. You're making maybe 1 to 3% per book. So if a comic is $4, you're lucky if you're making 10 to 15 cents per book. And even though, but they're distributing all these, you have to figure they have to have a special new warehouse. They have to pay people. They're not charging a whole lot for shipping. They have to basically build this business from the ground up, and they kind of decided they didn't want to do it. Lunar, which is run by DCB Service, has said that they have got new warehouse space. They're hiring up, but I can tell you right now, the stress on DCB Service has been showing for a while.
Well, I'm still waiting for my in-stock trades order that I placed well over a month and a half ago.
Yep.
And everybody that I've seen on the Facebooks and other online forums are like, yeah, they will not respond to any emails like, where's my order? Where's my order? But if you have a non-where my order question is, they will respond. So they're either editing them out or they're just deleting them or they know they've effed up, which is fine.
Or they just don't have enough people.
I wonder if they don't have the stock ready, because I noticed in previews last month, they're resoliciting all the Invincible books, because I ordered all the Invincible Ultimate Collections that I don't have because they were all listed in their service ready to go. Yet here I am a month and a half later. Plus, in the previews that we just went by, they listed everything again. So maybe they're just thinking, okay, let's reorder everything and fill it, because everybody's going gung-ho now that it's going to be a animated series. Well, if I was a retailer, yeah, I'd be stocking up on that and try to get people excited, especially since you can always hang the tag by the creator of Walking Dead on it. That might catch some people's opinion.
But
Which is really too bad, because, hey, in stock, I've got other books I'd like to buy, but until you ship my $200 order I already paid for,
well, they're not the only ones, because if you go to cheapgraphicnovels.com, which is another service that I use, they've got a big thing on there that says, sorry, we're running way late. But with DCB service, they've had some big bumps in the road. When they moved down to Kentucky, everything got messed up. That was when I got somebody else's order. Books were shipping 2 to 3 weeks late, and they finally said, look, we can't get enough quality people down here, and they moved back up to...
Wait, is that a slam on Kentucky?
We're not the ones who said it.
Yep.
But then they moved back up to near Chicago, and things got better. Then they got this deal with DC, and they slowed back down again. But in interviews, Cameron, the owner, has been very upfront and honest about how, we're scaling up as fast as we can, but we've got to hire more people. We've got to get a warehouse. We had to basically build this business in less than a month. They're still trying to hire up. And the numbers are starting to come out that UCS was Midtown. They were selling between 2 and 4 times the books that Lunar was, and now Lunar's going to be doing it all. So Lunar has got to hire up. They've got to get new people, And as much as we love getting our comics, you get them once a month? I get them twice a month. They're making a hell of a lot more money off of DC, and there's probably something in that contract that says these books must be in shops by Tuesday every week. And if they break that contract, I imagine there are big financial penalties. Because I work at a company that, does outsourcing, and in that contract, it'll point out, here are the things that you are required to do, and if you don't meet these benchmarks, here are the financial penalties for not meeting the benchmarks. So it's going to be really weird over the next month or two. And I imagine the people working at DCB Service and Lunar are really feeling the pinch of having to hire people, which is weird. We're having that same problem at both of my jobs. We've got the pandemic and millions of people out of work, but we can't get people to apply. Is it because people don't want to work? No, it's because the whole system of finding employees has completely broken down. You've got a number of big job sites, but everybody's using them. Nobody puts one ads in the paper anymore. And really, over the last, I would say, 10 years, the whole hiring market has just completely broken down, where it's harder and harder to find the jobs and harder for people to post the jobs. So, and comics are caught in the middle. They're stuck in the middle with you, Joe.
That's okay. It's a good place to be.
Now, we have been promising this episode for nigh on 9 months.
Which is about this time it took Marvel to stop advertising next. What if Conan walked the earth today and actually get it out? So there's reason for that.
And if you've listened to previous episodes, I found out why that was from Roy Thomas himself. They weren't able to get the art back from the Philippines because the inkers were like, oh my God, this is too beautiful.
They're just going to keep on looking.
Well, they didn't. I think one of the artists refused to touch it because he said, no matter what I do, it'll ruin it.
I'm going to ruin it.
That's the thing. Why not then just make a copy of it?
So, but one of the things we always talk about when we do our previews is that we're just talking about things that catch our eye, which means that if you happen to be a creator and want to catch our eye, you can certainly do so. Or if you're one of our beloved listeners and how come you didn't cover this? You just drop us a line. We'll talk about it. But there are certain books we never talk about because we just buy them every month. And that's not the point of what our preview shows are. We're just kind of pointing out some of the newer stuff. And we didn't do it for the new year because usually we do it at the beginning of the year. These are books that would be on a pull list, more or less. Which is something we always advocate. I mean, one of the best things you can do for your friendly neighborhood comic store is go down and set up a pull list. Just if you know you're going to collect Amazing Spider-Man month after month, just have them pull a copy for you. The second half is go down and pick it up. That's a different subject altogether. So, and I thought if should we do it like we do previews, just go through by publisher?
Yeah, because that's how I've organized my list.
And for me, the first one we do is always Image, and there's only one book I buy consistently from Image, and that's Eric Larson's Savage Dragon. Because everything else that comes out of Image either publishes and stops, publishes and drops, or is just not being published, and I have no clue when or if it'll go. There are a few, like, for example, Monstrous. And as I fire up the old Kray 4000, I'll find out the Monstrous. There it is. Let's see. Creator Marie M. Louis and Santa Takeda. I can't tell. It's all kind of blurry on the thing, but I buy that as graphic novels as they come out. But the regular series, I believe, is up to issue 30, and they might have cracked into some mini series here and there. There are 5 books out. Like I said, I think I got the new one just upstairs sitting in my pile waiting to be read. So there's a lot of books and a lot of titles like that, but all I have month after month is Savage Dragon, and I will probably buy that as long as Eric Larson keeps publishing it, just because I kind of like the idea that it's his character, his vision, and he has some pretty wild letters pages too. Almost not quite as wild as Cerebus was, but he has some good discussions going on, and I do like where he's. Well, I can't say I like where he's going with the character. Every so often he takes storylines somewhere else, but it's always fun just to ride along and see what he's doing. With that, Cory, what series out of Image do you pick up month after month?
First off, I rarely buy what they call floppies, the monthly comics. It's pretty rare that I buy those now. I have gone either digital or trade paperback on tons and tons and tons of stuff. With Image, it's pretty much trade paperbacks. Anything that is by the Criminal team, they're now doing just books like Pulp and My Heroes Have Always Been Junkies or Reckless. Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, They did Criminal. They've now morphed over into that. I buy anything from Greg Ruck. I buy anything from Ed Brubaker. So most of their stuff are series of mini-series. Regular series, let's
There
see,
really
a Die.
aren't that
I'm buying
many
Die.
regular series there,
Yeah.
that just come out. I mean, there are, but most of the ones that I collect, I come in late, like Invincible. I came in late. That's over. Walking Dead, it's over. You can still pick them up as trades or omnibuses or ultimates or compendiums.
Die is the series about teenagers who went into a fantasy world and then came back, and now they are in their 30s and have gone back to see what has happened since they were there. It's much darker than I thought it would be. I am picking up Saga I pick up as trade paperbacks, especially when it comes back. Monstrous I'm picking up as trade paperbacks when it comes back. For a while you had Jonathan Hickman doing series at Image, and I would buy those as trade paperbacks. Those have all ended. Sex Criminals, it just ended. I was buying that as books. What is the new one that I'm... Firepower. Firepower by Kirkman and Samney. I'm buying that as books because it's, Kirkman's superhero stuff is good, but it takes a long time to simmer. But Chris Samney is one of the best artists in comics, so I'm buying that. But really for Image, it's more who the creator is. And a lot of times it's, this creator's doing this book, and then when it ends, I will pick up their next thing. Like Chew. I'm picking up Chew, which is CHU, because I like the comic Chew, CHEW. But again, I'm buying that as trade paperbacks. So, Joe, let's move on to Dark Horse.
Dark Horse for me is strictly miniseries. There's nothing regular that I buy from them. I look at everything. For example, I'm just looking over my list over the last couple months, and they had Orville, Spy Island. Before that, and I'm talking, we're already into July here. That was pretty much it. How about for you?
Hellboy. Even though Hellboy supposedly ended, they're still putting out Hellboy stuff every month.
Yeah, I mean,
I find that hilarious.
I picked up the heart or the. I didn't get the short stories of Hellboy, but I got the main books, and they're just sitting upstairs, and I just pull them down and go through them. They're a lot of fun.
Let's see. Over, what is it here?
I think IDW.
Invisible Kingdom, I am picking up as trade paperbacks. That's the one by G. Willow Wilson. But really, a lot of their stuff is like Umbrella Academy. I'm coming into that late, so I'm just picking up the paperbacks now. Whenever they put out an omnibus of one of their series, I jump on that. But they're not really a series-oriented company anymore.
No.
Even the books that are supposed to be series, like Everything? Was that the name of it? About the big mall where you can get everything.
Oh, yeah. I remember that because I picked up like the first 4 or 5.
I like the idea. When it comes out as trade paperbacks, I'm going to buy it, but I haven't seen a new issue in forever.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they just do series of miniseries, which is probably best for them because, they make most of their money off the video game stuff now. And that's really it for them. DC, Joe?
With DC, I was actually going to finish up Action and Superman when Bendis got off it. But with the news that is it official Mark Wade's taken over, or is it kind of?
It's not official, but
Okay.
Bendis's run ends in December.
Yeah. So I guess it depends on who takes over after him. I had planned just to end it at the 25s, and then I realized, I think it was it Superman or Action's story went into like 1026, and I thought, okay, I'll cut it off there. But then I'm like, okay, I'll just write it out to the end and see where he's going. Because really, I don't know if it's just corporate mucks around too much in DC with Superman, but I just was not getting the zing out of the stories that Bendis was writing that say he had on Avengers or even in X-Men, even though X-Men kind of ended nowhere. I am enjoying Green Lantern, and as long as Morrison does it, I will follow along. Again, one of those guys who could write the bloody phone book and I'd read it. Legion of Superheroes, again, now this is a Bendis title I am actually enjoying. I know a lot of Legion fans are, oh, it's not the Legion. It's like, well, whatever, dudes. Go find the Legion era you like and just stick with it. I'm just happy to see somebody doing anything with it. And, of course, the last one that Bendis did, Young
Justice,
is over, and as is the Sandman universes. Joe Hill's line seems to be done. A lot of things I just pick up as graphic novels. I'm the last one we talked about, the Crisis on Multiple Earths, new printing. I picked up New Teen Titans. I think Volume 12 just got ordered. Wonder Woman by Perez, Jeff Jones, Green Lantern, his run, Transmetropolitan. I think, did 4 books come out? I don't know if they're going to finish the rest of the series.
Yeah, they're going to finish it.
I hope so.
I don't know where they are in it.
Yeah, they did 4 books and trades. So yeah, generally I just pick up the older stuff like that. I mean, I have a lot of showcases. I have a lot of omnibuses, like Grant Morrison's omnibuses. I'll pick those up because I never read much of his run when he was doing Batman. So, but as far as the floppies, those are the big 3: Action, Soup, Green Lantern, Legion of Superheroes. How about you?
I'm still buying Batman. I still like Batman. Again, getting it as trades. For most of DC's other stuff, it depends on who the creative team is. I'm getting the Bendis stuff at DC. Wonder Woman, I was on it while G. Willow Wilson was on it, and then I left. I'm buying the Tom King stuff. Currently, it's Strange Adventures and Rorschach, both of which I'll be buying as trades. Batman, Catwoman. That's a new Tom King series. Going to be buying that as a trade. But here's the thing about both Marvel and DC. I subscribe to their digital service. I don't feel the need to pick up the secondary series or even the big series if I'm not 100%, oh my gosh, I have to read it. Like Justice League. Yeah, they're a good book. And I will read it when it shows up on DC Universe. Teen Titans can be a good book. I'll pick it up when it's on DC Universe. The Flash. Love The Flash. Not enough to buy it, though. If I can pay, if I can pay $70 a year to read everything, you've really got to jump out at me before I'm going to pay for a regular comic. And then the trades I buy are the stuff I read where I go, I'm going to read that again and again and again and again. So I need it in a book so that I can have it on a shelf in case they shut down their digital, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where I am with DC, which is a weird place to be. The Grant Morrison Green Lantern I'm buying as hardcovers. And I don't know if I will be interested in Green Lantern once it's over because really after Jeff Johns left Green Lantern, they just oversaturated the market and they added all these. I think at one point Earth was being guarded by 6 different Green Lanterns. And it's, dude, calm down. Okay? Slow your roll. We don't need 6 different Green Lanterns on Earth. And then I was excited for Rebirth, and DC, of course, pissed that away.
Yeah. I was.
Where now the ending of Rebirth, oh yeah, that's it. Not part of continuity anymore.
Yeah.
Put it over to the side. Well, it started as continuity. How's this story that started in DC Universe, now it's just kind of it doesn't affect anything anymore. IDW, Joe.
IDW is I think I'm gonna jump ahead and just kind of kill three with one stone, so to speak. IDW, Dynamite, and Boom, with one exception, are all miniseries driven for me. The big one from Dynamite, of course, Red Sonja, Vampirella, I don't buy regularly. Although I did buy the Red Sonja, Vampirella meets Betty and Veronica 12-issue thing. I got it all lined up waiting to read. But there's nothing out of these guys that I buy on a regular basis. IDW, of course, has Star Trek, Transformers, G.I. Joe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't buy these on a regular. Power Rangers is in there somewhere. I think Boom has them. There is one exception, and I will mention it. But first, Cory, I'll throw it back to you. Anything regularly from IDW, Dynamite, or Boom?
IDW, I do pick up the Star Trek comics as books. Boom, I pick up Lumberjanes. And what was that? The Avant-Garde. But again, Avant-Garde I picked up as a trade paperback and loved it. And I'm waiting for them to... They're actually not going to finish it as regular comics. They're just going to finish it with a final trade. The Star Trek... Star Trek Year 5, I really like in trades. I'm glad I'm behind on everything, or I would probably start buying that as regular comics because it's really fun. And the thing is, it's not what Year 5 would have been if it continued as a TV series because it's too interconnected. But they are cleaning some stuff up, and we're about to find out why the Klingons changed their appearance.
Now, I mentioned there
was one thing in a recent issue that kind of it didn't quite work for me. So I'm going to ask you, when the Enterprise was on their 5-year mission, were they inside Federation space or outside Federation space?
Which one?
The original series.
I always felt it was they were exploring unknown space. Occasionally they would run into places that they had been. And they were also, I guess they had a definite Romulan and a definite Klingon border. So you can almost think of it there, somewhere in there, the three spaces intersect, and almost like in a Y, this is Federation, this is Klingon, this is Romulan. Because we know that the Romulan, in like third season Star Trek, they have this nifty new Klingon model, but they had no Klingon shows. So they said, well, the Romulans are using it because there's a intelligence, a Romulan Klingon collaboration. And of course, Next Gen took and ran with that. But the way I understand it, it was like, okay, this could be considered Federation space. They're just slowly moving out, kind of like a Manifest Destiny type thing, because eventually you're going to get into areas where, especially as you start moving towards what we now call the Delta Quadrant, because I think they said the Romulans and the Klingons are in the kind of beta edge of things. So it would be just like, okay, we're going out and exploring. This is our territory, but it's not necessarily, established like, okay, this is the state of Minnesota and over there are the Dakota territories. And again, a lot of me is talking about that. I'm trying to say how I viewed the show as a kid watching it versus how I look at it now, because now they have maps you can actually call up online. And then, of course, the other problem is space is 3D. So it was always on the plane of the Milky Way that they would travel. They were never going straight up north or what we consider, 90 degrees up from the plane of the Milky Way or south, which is always something interesting. If you ever watch, like, there's an episode of Futurama where they're surrounded by a ring of protesters. So the ship just goes straight up about 100 feet and zooms away. Yeah, I guess we didn't think that out too good, did we?
See, my problem with in the comic, the 5-year mission is over and they return to Federation space, and it's a big deal that they've returned to Federation space. But my whole feeling was, well, they're going to star bases and they're doing diplomatic missions and they're shuttling diplomats here and there. I thought they were in Federation space, but I could see, it's very flexible, it sounds like.
Yeah, because like when you think about the Gorn episode where they first they meet the Gorn, they set up a star base, but what they didn't realize is they set that star base up on what the Gorn thinks is their space, and that's what created the conflict and eventually the resolution of that particular episode. There's other ones like the Telosians that were in the pilot, and I can't think of the two-parter they made in the original series of the pilot episode.
Cage.
Yes. Well, that was the pilot's name. They named it something different. The Menagerie.
Oh, that's right. The Menagerie.
Two-parter was. They never. Now is that planet in Federation space considered now? I mean, obviously it was on the edge when the Cage was filmed, because that felt very much like being on the Western frontier.
Yeah.
Or is it now? I mean, you would think with all the spies running around, someone's going to go, hey, why do the Federation still have a death sentence if you visit this one planet? There's got to be something really cool there, which I think was one of the DC annuals they covered. This is the end of our version of the 5-year mission.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to get too down the rabbit hole, but this is something to me that you want to make. I'm giving this to you, CBS Paramount. There's your next Star Trek series. Call it the Khan principle. The idea that, Kirk met Khan, didn't tell anybody. Well, what else are these renegade 12 ships of the original Star Trek done that we don't know about? We got to go out and revisit these places. What was the one episode where, what's his name from Alice? Instead of being a diner, they were all mobsters because the previous place dropped off a book about mobsters, so they made their whole society of mobsters. There was, if I'm remembering right, like 100 years between contact. So that planet might be like
somebody did a comic where they went back there and they had found a different book, and they based society on that book.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the Federation has all of that information because Captain's log. But that's really, for me, that was it for IDW, Boom, and Dynamite.
I do have one from Boom I do want to mention, because I guess while it is a limited series, it's still going on. Something is Killing the Children.
Yeah, I'm picking that up as books.
Yeah, and I'm picking it up as a series. And I don't know how many. It says it's a limited series, but they may. Initially, I kind of think they thought maybe it was just going to go like 4 to 6, but they did 6 printings of number 1. So they have a hit going. And
the writer has said that he has expanded the story.
Yeah.
It was going to be a series of mini-series, but now it's just going to be one.
Yeah. Essentially, the thing is kids are they have nightmares of things, and what happens in this place, Archer's Peak, the kids begin to go missing. Enter Erica Slaughter. She kills monsters. That's all she does. And she bears the cost because it must be done. And it's just a phenomenal series. And if you can't go pick up the floppies, as we call them, I guess, definitely pick it up in book form, because that's about the only ongoing that I pick up between them.
Another thing that I want to point out at DC, the 80-page and 100-page books that they do that are anthologies, I buy all those. I don't care who's doing them. I love those books. I want to support anthologies, But I like anthologies because, in my latest box day, I got 2 of them. Let's see here, I got the 80-page legend, no, it's 48-page giant, Legend of the Swamp Thing, and then the 80-page Doomed and the Damned. And Doomed and Damned is 10 team-ups straight from your nightmares. So it's 10 horror stories with superheroes teaming up. Legend of the Swamp Thing is probably stories that they had left over from when they killed the DC Giants. But I love those. I love anthologies. They make me happy.
I will mention one other thing with IDW. I'll pick up most Yo books when they come out.
I will pick up all of the Yo books.
Yep, they're
and
awful ass.
And I actually reached out to Mr. Craig Yo.
Yo.
And I have some breaking news, Joe. Let him know that every time there is not a new Yo book in previews that we bitch about it. And he said, "You're so nice, Cory. Times have been a little rough for us getting out books and figuring things out with all that's going on. Your encouragement means the world. Keep complaining."
Oh, well, that's one thing we're good at. That
So,
just saying randomly, yo.
And I pick up anything that he puts out because he's finding the obscure historical stuff that I just devour. Like his anti-war comics book he put out a few years ago, so full of these Ditko stories that I'd never even heard of. Absolutely loved it. At Marvel, I pick up all the True Believers, all the True Believer reprints. They're $1. I'm buying them, even if I've got the comic already. Why? Because I love these formats. I love having these. And I'm basically just making a long box full of the True Believers because these are kind of the cool stories that Marvel had. It's not their greatest stories, but oh, look, here's the reprint of Amazing Adventures #1, which has a Gary Friedrich, John Buscema story of the Black Widow. And what's the backup story? Oh, it's the next story by Gary Friedrich and John Buscema, even though on the cover it says the Inhumans and the Black Widow, because that Inhuman story was written and drawn by Jack Kirby. There's also all the X-Men reprints they do. Some of them are kind of obscure, like this one here, Marvel Superheroes, which reprints some real early Captain Britain stories. Drawn by Alan Davis and written by the original writer, who they can't name. Marvel, again, Marvel Unlimited. And now it's only, did I mention on last week's podcast? It's only 3 months. Yeah, I did. It's only 3 months now. Used to be a comic would come out 6 months later, it's on Marvel Unlimited. Now if a comic comes out 3 months later, it's on Marvel Unlimited. I do pick up the one-shots, such as the Chris Claremont one-shot that's coming out. But if I really like a story, I'm going to pick it up as a trade. Otherwise, I'm reading it on Marvel Unlimited. Joe?
All right. In no particular order, I read Wolverine. I like Wolverine for some reason. I've been doing X-Men, just sticking with Hickman stuff. Amazing Spider-Man. Oh, why can't I quit you? This is the book I started with way back in 1978, and although I purged a bunch of them in the Great Purge a couple of years ago, I still keep picking up new ones. I'm on board with the new Thor. Originally, the Aaron run I'll pick up as trades as it goes along. Savage Avengers is on the teetering list. I kind of enjoy it, but it's not. I'm thinking because of the way things were paused over this weird spring and summer, I just need to sit down and reread everything again. Avengers I'm with. I'll stick with Aaron this time. I'm not going to get caught short, not like I did with Thor. Fantastic Four I'm still enjoying. Immortal Hulk. I was digging Doctor Strange, but they just canceled it. I am enjoying Strange Academy. Read the first 3 issues, so I'll see where that goes. Doctor Doom, I'm enjoying. I just like the solo villain for some reason. Just see where he goes. On the Star Wars line, Darth Vader. And that's it for just the monthlies. Everything else is miniseries or an omnibus, or like I mentioned last previews, I'll pick up the Exoswords hardcover just because the few issues I did pick up when I thought I was going to buy the whole crossover, I enjoyed the living bejesus out of. I'm just looking backwards. I suppose I'll pick up Eternals when that gets resolicited. And the one I'm looking forward to, and Cory, maybe you know what happened to, I thought Kurt Busiek was going to do a Marvel series.
He is. It is still coming.
Okay, because I swore I ordered issue 1, but that was pre-pandemic, so maybe it was something else. But yeah, I'll be all over that, although I may, if he writes it as well as he did Astro City, and I know we were talking about that in the previous podcast, that may be one to pick up in trade, just to see how he puts everything together. So yeah, I'm still kind of a bit of a Marvel zombie, but just look at all the stuff they publish. I mean, there's entire families of books I just don't pick up, and part of it's because if I ever think of it, I will, like you do, just go to Marvel Unlimited and check it out. After this is everybody else.
I still pick up the Cerebus stuff that Dave Sim puts out.
I pick it up, but I've found them in discount bins, which is really weird. So, and I did order the one that he did the scandalous Supergirl cover, just because I collect Supergirl. So, that was kind of a given. Probably the closest I'll ever get to having him make me a Supergirl art.
It is a weird book too, because it's basically he's doing these online strips using Cerebus clip art and old illustrations from Dante's Inferno, and then every so often he will, like Cerebus Batvark penis. He has a drawing of Cerebus and he's added a dick. There are times when you just kind of wince at the jokes he's doing because they're very. He hates women a lot. Every so often I think back to, he did 186 a while after his divorce. Most guys, when they get a divorce, they get mad and then they get over it. I don't think he ever got over it because basically he lives out alone in the middle of nowhere, and he quit doing tours, so he just got to sit around and stew. But I can't do therapy on a guy who I don't know. But man, there are times when it's wince-inducing, and there are times when what he does is inventive, and it's like the last 100 issues of Cerebus. I can't ever recommend it to anyone. I'm glad I read it, but there are times when I went, this is just such a slog to get through. Oh my God, it's so hard to read through this.
Which was that where he did the Torah rewriting, or are you talking?
Yes.
I don't even bother. I gave that to a friend of mine who is Jewish, and even he was like, I have no idea where the hell he's going with this. He gave it back. Although he did enjoy the Sim did a thing where he was talking about the oh God, I'm really buffing this one. The Jewish papers that the Jews are involved in every bad thing that's ever happened.
Oh yeah, the what is that called? I can look that up because the plot, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Because Will Eisner did a thing about it, and it tells the story of the anti-Semitic conspiracy behind the falsified Protocols of the Elder of Zion, written by the Russian-French writer Matthew Golovinsky in 1905.
Yep. And Dave Sim had done something on that as well.
Yeah.
And I gave and I can't think of how he pronounced it. And I'll bring it up, or probably one of you are screaming at the podcast, it's called this. But I gave my friend a copy of that, and he was like, I had no idea. I mean, he knew about the whole protocols of the elders of Zion, which is basically bullshit. But it's just one of these things that keeps permeating through history and keeps coming back as if it's truth, and it just isn't. And again, the DC did the 2005 did the graphic novel with Will Eisner, so definitely worth picking up because and like I said, I'll find the David Sim one.
And when Sim does historical stuff, it's spellbinding. The Strange Death of Alex Raymond that he was doing in Glamour Puss, I could not have loved that more, because he had done all this digging into Alex Raymond's life. And then he was going to do a graphic novel on it, but his hands are so damaged from the drawing he did over the years, he can't draw anymore. He talked about in an interview where he's kind of redoing that Spawn issue that he did.
Yeah, actually, they talk about that coming.
And it took him weeks to draw those pages, whereas back at the time when he was doing it, he was able to easily crank out a page a day. So,
can I interrupt for a sec?
Sure.
Judenhaus. That's the one-shot comic book.
I've got that.
By Dave Sim. Yeah, that was what I gave my friend, and again, it's worth picking up because he does a good take on that. Anyways.
Knights at the Dinner Table, I pick up.
Yep, that is probably that, and Tomorrow's Line in back issue 125 are the only two things that come out monthly that I pick up constantly. And if you listen to any of the preview shows, there's a lot of stuff that I pick up, but everything else are miniseries, one-shots, or graphic novels. Even Archie just has stopped publishing Archie, and I've been picking that up since Mark Waid started over at #1.
Yeah, I was picking up the Archie stuff. I absolutely loved Afterlife with Archie. It's gone. Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. It's gone. Archie seems to have vanished, which is a shame, because I thought that, the Mark Waid stuff was great. The stuff that came after it was good. I even liked the Nick Spencer, Archie and Sabrina, and Archie and Katie Keene. I like those stories a lot. Archie has really cut down on the amount of books they publish, and I know that a couple years ago they tried to do a Kickstarter, and then again they've kind of quietly done a Kickstarter, because when they did a Kickstarter, people were like, hey, you're a major company, you don't need to do a Kickstarter, just publish it. And I wonder if the sales were so bad that they went, oh, we kind of need to do a Kickstarter. I buy from Tomorrow's, I pick up the Kirby. What is it? Kirby Collector. Kirby Quarterly was the British one that finally ended. Alter Ego and back issue. I love all of those. I am picking up Heavy Metal. I had not picked up Heavy Metal my whole life. And then Grant Morrison came on as editor and is like, you know what? This is a hole in my comics experience. I never quite read Heavy Metal. I don't know a lot about European comics, and I should. So I picked it up, and Morrison kind of faded away after a year, but I'm still picking up Heavy Metal. And regular series, gosh, there's not much out there that I'm picking up as regular series. It's mostly trade paperbacks. Trying to think, what is the stuff at Viz? Anything by Rumiko Takahashi I'm buying. So, Maison Ikoku, Usuri Yatsura, Mermaid Saga. They're probably going to start reprinting the boxing one. What was the boxing one called? They haven't started reprinting it yet. So, Rumiko boxing manga. 1 Pound Gospel. She also did Ranma 1/2, which I imagine they're going to start putting out as big books too. But anything by Rumiko Takahashi I'm going to pick up. And that's really it for regular series. If,
Well, of course, we forgot the number one thing that we buy every month. The previews catalog, yeah. And that's how we run through it and we check out all the new miniseries. So there are certain creators I'll look forward to. Like I keep an eye on Peter David, local guys, Mark Stegbauer, whenever he has something come up, Colleen Doran. I mean, there's tons of people. I just keep my eyes open. So if I see they do something, I'll try to pick it up.
And again, if it weren't for Marvel Unlimited and DC Universe, I'd probably be buying a lot more regular comics. But if you're a comic fan and you don't want to have 50 long boxes in your house growing and $3.99 a comic every month, or twice a month, or however often, subscribe to those. I mean, for the price, I would say if you're a heavy comic reader, you're probably spending at least $70 a month on comics. Spend that $70, get Marvel Unlimited for the year. You've got everything they're publishing now and most of the stuff they published in the past. For DC Universe, they're getting better about it. And from what they have said, when the video finally spins over to HBO Max, they're going to have the same policy as Marvel, where after 6 months, it'll show up on the app. So, great way to both save money and, to my mind, save space. I was reading about somebody who's got like over 100,000 comics, and he talked about how much space it takes. And all I could think is, yeah, that when digital came around, there were people who, I'd rather just hold a comic. Not me, man. I want to be able to find them. When you get to a certain number of comics, finding back issues is a nightmare. Speaking of nightmares, we're not doing ads anymore, Joe.
We're not?
No, we're not doing
ads. I didn't even get to vote on it.
But because, and this is the last time we do this, we're going to tell you, if you're in the U.S., go vote. Tomorrow is Election Day. And the sad thing is it comes after daylight savings time. So, yes, this campaign was an hour longer than it should have been.
Well, and it was leap year, too.
Yeah. Well, it's always leap year, so an extra day and an extra hour. Oh, my God. But go vote. Head over to betterknowaballot.com, and Stephen Colbert will tell you how to vote in your state, and he'll also tell you that you're the best state in the nation. Or you could go to votevotevote.com. That has information, too. But we're telling you to go vote. Now, the podcasts I do are kind of on hiatus because my work has gone crazy, which we will talk about later on. But I do have a bunch of other podcasts that I do, and you could go listen to them like these. And now we get to Joe's favorite part of the show. No, not where I put my headset down and do some adult coloring for 45 minutes while he blathers on about who knows what. But Joe, what's going on the eBays?
Hatari.
That's a movie about hunters in Africa with John Wayne, I do believe.
Yep. It's Swahili for Danger, 1962 American adventure romantic comedy, directed by Howard Hawks and starring John Wayne. A bunch of professional gamers in Africa, or I should say game catchers, lots of dramatic wildlife chases, scenic backdrops of Mount Meru, a dormant volcano, shot in Technicolor in northern Tanzania, which is now Tanzania. Did you know there was a Dell comic book on it?
Yes, that's actually how I know, because you had that comic at the shop every so often.
Yeah, and I found another copy. I don't know if I picked it up somewhere or if it was just one of those that I grabbed. But it's Dell Movie Classic. It doesn't really have a number on it, so it's kind of like 12-340.310, whatever. It was one of those I had. It was good, very good shape. Wasn't quite sure. I just loved it because I picked it up and I saw John Wayne on it because it's, you know, it says it right on there. Adventure for John Wayne and his crew of fun-loving daredevils. And it's like, I'd never heard of this before. And it's a Dell comic, and it's a movie classic. And I haven't seen the movie. Now that I'm aware of it, I can probably try. But it was just, you know, like we were talking about, it takes up space. It was cool. I read it. It was fun. But it's gone because I sold it on eBay. Because that's what I do. I sell lots of comics on eBay. I just thought I'd go through a couple different ones. I think I mentioned that there was a crossover from Dynamite 2014. Totally 100% Joe Michael Linsner, Dawn Vampirella. And I went kind of bug nuts because I couldn't find issue 5. And fortunately, I found it. Read it. It was a good series. I enjoyed it. Everything's out of print on it. So finding them, you know, you can find cheap copies on eBay. But I just put the set together and sold it because even though it was nice art and I did read it, I cannot possibly think I'd ever reread it. Well, how about this one, Corey? Have you heard Friday Foster?
I've heard of having a Foster's on Friday, but I've not heard of Friday Foster.
Friday Foster is a 1975 American blaxploitation film. Written, directed by Arthur Marks, starring Pamela Greer in the title role. Eartha Kitt, Scatman Crothers, Carl Weathers co-starred. It's an adaptation of a newspaper comic strip scripted by Jim Lawrence, illustrated by George Longaron. You know how I remember last names. This comic strip was unique because it was the first time I think the protagonist was, well, I know she was black, but I think it might have been the first time the main protagonist in any type of media like that was black. And so you had the strip, then they based the movie off it, and off the movie, they made one single Dell comic, which could be the first time there was ever an African-American woman headlining a comic. This was as of 1972. I have yet to find anybody to challenge that claim. So hopefully if there's any comic historians, you can get a hold of us and say, no, Friday Foster, while groundbreaking and very interesting, was not the first. Also very, very expensive. I have a very fine copy on my eBays if you're interested in looking at it, just to sing about it. So yeah, it's, as far as I know, it's the first time I've ever seen a comic strip adapted into a TV show, or a movie adapted into a comic book. Although the comic book might have more to do with the comic strip than it has to do with the aforementioned movie. The last one I'll talk about is excuse me while I wake up. Hello, Kray 3000. Not time to fall asleep yet. Every so often, as I'm going through my pile of books, I'll stop and I get utterly baffled by something. So I had found this Top Comics. It says Top Comics, Walt Disney Presents Zorro. And it's listed as number 2. However, all the guides list it differently. That Top Comics number 2 is not Zorro, it's something else. So it took me a while to figure out what it was, because it's not, it says Top Comics. I mean, the Inca says Top Comics, Walt Disney Presents Zorro number 2, but it's not that way in any of the guides. And using not only the Overstreet Price Guide and Atomic Avenue, I could not find this thing anywhere. And then I found a little tiny blurb in the Overstreet Guide. It said, this particular comic came out the same time that Gold Key Zorro number 8 came out. So you flip to Zorro, and there it is, number 8. It's the exact same comic inside the one I've got, Topps Comic, Walt Disney Presents Zorro number 2. That was in Gold Key's series Zorro number 8. They came out at the same time. They're priced the same. And they contain stories, which are reprints from 4-Color Comics $9.33. I was like, wow, that's a lot for me. So I put it on eBay. I don't need that type of goofiness. No, it was fun to try to research and figure out exactly what it was I have. Because every so often, I see this more with independents. I find I have a comic that either Overstreet doesn't care to list or Atomic Avenue hasn't listed. And I go to a couple secondary sources. And usually what you do is you take a picture of the comic and then the, am I saying it right? Indica in the bottom?
Indicta.
Inkita. And,
Indicta.
you know, the small thing that says whether it's
Yes.
first print or second print. And you send that to whoever, and that verifies whether it is or not. And this one was just kind of weird because that said it was something totally different, and it's listed weird. I just thought it was interesting, though, that Gold Key would publish the same comic, reprinting stuff the same month with two different covers. But, you know, got to make your money somehow. Can't be any different than, what do they do? What do they call them now? Dollar comics?
Yeah.
True believers? Hey, you got to do something with it. I've been finding, when I used to buy comic books, they used to call my guy down at St. Paul Comics, John Nunziata, called it poor man's gold. Golden Age books that are just beat to all hell. And because if they weren't, they'd be worth a couple hundred, if not more. And by the time you listen to this here podcast, hopefully I've waded through all that poor man's gold because I've read it, I've enjoyed it. I'm just going to sell it. So come check it out. You know the place to go, Crazy Comics. Just eBay it, or I should say Google it. You can find it, Crazy Comics shop, Crazy on eBay, Krayz, or just go to Cory's website. He puts a link on it, which I don't thank him often enough for. And of course, as a listener to this here podcast, if you do see something you're interested in, make an offer. I think I mentioned that the aforementioned Amazing Heroes, number 147, that had the first appearance of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I ended up selling. Some guy was watching it. I made him an offer. He didn't refuse.
How
And
much?
Let's just say it was below $149.99 that I offered.
But above $148.
Nope, still below.
Oh, okay.
And you'll never know. But you can make an offer. Just send me a note, watch it, or if you just outright buy it and say you're a listener to this here show, I'll toss something in because I'm that type of guy. I like to give. I'm a giving guy. And of course, there's only one thing left to say. Come get some.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show. No, not where I eat an entire tub of Domino's sweet icing.
While doing Gregorian chants.
They gave me an extra one. Oh. No, it's a freaking geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
Three things, and I'm going to go from mundane to ultra serious. This was, as we're recording, Star Wars Mondo Mondays, and apparently there were a couple exclusives you could only buy at Target and one other place. So they had a Mandalorian that had the little, we call it Baby Yoda, although it's called a child, with the little silver egg that he floats around in. And I was all ready to buy it. I had my card ready to blow. They're only allowing you to buy one. Sold out. Now, they are releasing it on December 1st. So how many Toy Geeks are going to be out at all the Targets to grab them off, if any end up on the shelves? Again, this is your $1 million idea. If you want to go out and scoop them all up and go sell them for $50 on eBay, it's your business. But just save one for me. That's all I'm asking. I'm still bummed on work. You know, I got to go to checkpoints. They're just doing some really weird shit behind the scenes. They just randomly said, okay, you're all single function, which means we're not going to be doing anything in bags, which I always find stupid. So you're taking three guys who have 18 years experience in bags, and you're just saying, no, you're only going to work checkpoints from now on. So somebody behind the scenes is just fucking with us. And I don't know why or how, but whatever. Kray can play that game. And I have other reasons I want to stay dual function, because as soon as more bags start shipping, they're going to have to start bringing people back in. And, unless they want to do a fast one, say, well, you're only single function, you can't do it. I said, well, you don't have anybody else that's dual function that can go back. So you'll have to retrain me. To me, it's just stupid. One day, every 2 weeks or every month down in baggage, I just stay what they call current. So I don't have to relearn everything. But whatever, I'm not running the fucking place. As you can tell, I'm fed up. And starting with my birthday next year, I'm going to start my retirement fucking countdown. Should we go with that or retirement fucking countdown? And I'll just count the years and the days and the hours and the minutes so I retire, and then I can podcast full time. Health-wise, Cory knows a little bit about this. Oh, I had a scare about 2 weeks ago. It's not the issue you think it is, although it might be. I just went to bed and I had pains in my chest that I'd never felt before. Up my shoulder blade, down on my breastbone, into my throat. I felt feverish. It was hard to breathe, take a deep breath, hard to swallow. I just was feeling miserable. And of course, what do you think it is? COVID. So I'm like, shit, I got to go to bed. I can't get tested for a couple of days because no one could just walk in and get tested unless you're a high muckety muck politician, a billionaire, or a piece of meat on a sports team somewhere. So I went to bed and it just hurt. It hurt to lay down. It hurt to sit up. It hurt to do anything. I just kind of slumbered. And at 4 in the morning, I woke up and go, fuck, what if it's a heart attack? And as I've talked about, our dear buddy Mike, my ex-employee, passed away from a heart attack. I had 2 other friends pass away from heart attacks this year, older than me, younger than me. The worst thing you can possibly do is go to WebMD because obviously the lawyers have...
Not only are you having a heart attack, but you're dying of cancer.
Well, and the best thing is all the symptoms for COVID and heart attack are very much the same. The one bit of advice they gave is said, if you're going to go into emergency room, you might as well have an ambulance bring you in because you'll get better priority. Don't know if that's true or not, but I woke up Chris and I said, call 911. I got to go in and have this checked out. And I got right as of now, I got these big yellow splotches on my hand and arm where they stuck the IVs and paramedics were 100%. Chris could not go down with me because of the whole COVID thing. I was in the exact same hallway in the emergency room at Regents in St. Paul that I was way back when, if you want to go dig up the podcast, when I took the emergency ride from work, when I was having my allergic reaction. There wasn't anybody screaming to get out of there like it was last time. They did have a couple of people in the hall, but I was put in the room. Nurses were very pleasant. The doctor, Cory, I don't know about who your doctor is. I'm getting old because I swear the doctor who helped me was like 20 years old. I mean, it was the same thing when I had my hip done. This guy's got to be no more than 20 years old. But what can I say? She was very reassuring. They were total professionals, outstanding care. For the most part, on the ambulance ride and then twice in the hospital, they did the EKGs. They took blood to check for the enzymes or hormones or whatever it is that shows that, yes, you have damage in your heart. And they came up negative. They said whatever it was, they're pretty sure it wasn't heart related. So after, I think I went home about 11, maybe noon. So it wasn't heart, thank God, but it still hurt. A couple days later, I went in, I got my COVID test. I just lied again, went to CVS. Went in to see my regular doctor. He listened to everything, listened to what I was saying, and he's thinking, yeah, I feel good. It's not your heart. They scheduled me right away to do a stress test, that's the thing where you get hooked up with some IVs and well, I'll talk about that in a second. But he gave me some muscle relaxants because he was thinking, judging by the residue pain, I might have pulled a muscle in my chest, which I've done before. When I was 17, 18, I had what they called spontaneous pneumothorax, which is akin to taking a hot or cold knitting needle and just shoving it into your shoulder blade out the front. And I thought maybe I was having that because I was having difficulty breathing, but I didn't know what the hell it was. They're not quite sure what it was. They're pretty sure it wasn't heart. But I figured when I went home after seeing my primary doctor, I was doing good because not only did I have extra oxycodone left over from my hip, but now I had muscle relaxant and I had Fireball. No, I'm not that stupid, so don't worry about it. Did the stress test the following Sunday. Stress test, if you've never done it, is you go in and at first you're resting and they take a EKG of your heart and then somebody does an ultrasound to get a picture of your heart. And you're laying on your side and you got your IV tube in and then you get on the treadmill and you just start walking and he'll ask you how you're doing. What they want you to do is they want you to get to the actual edge of your physical endurance, and then as soon as you can, they'll give you a 30-second countdown. You get off, you lay on the bed, they got the EKG going, and they take another ultrasound of your heart pumping away as fast as it can. And you got to do it as quick as you can, and then as you slow down, they might or might not take another one as soon as you rest, just to see how long it takes for your heart to recover. So that was my Sunday morning. And again, Chris couldn't go in with me because of the whole COVID restrictions. So today I went in and talked to the cardiologist, and he says, everything looks pretty good with one exception. And he was showing me on the EKG where there was just a little bump where the other ones had a straight line. He said, that indicates something wasn't right. And it's one of those things like when you know, he doesn't want to say, doctors cannot really say, yeah, you're fine 100%, because he says he's had people who have had their stress tests and then they go home and have a heart attack. He's like, well, I just had my stress test. Stress tests are very good to detect blockage, to detect any other anomalies, and that's what he says this is, kind of an anomaly. He says, now what we could do is go in and have a CT scan. And I offered, hey, at work, I can just ride through the baggage belt if you want and get one of those. But he said that would give us the 3D ultra view of everything. You detect blockage, you detect bad valves, things like that. Other than satisfying curiosity, I'm not saying you have to do it, but you also got to be aware, I'm 55. I've got high blood pressure. I've got high cholesterol. I've got diabetes. I've got rheumatoid arthritis, which means lots and lots of inflammation. Those are my risk factors. I have them under control. I don't smoke. I'm not a heavy drinker. I could probably use more exercise, and I definitely need more veggies in my diet, but I'm managing the risk factors. It's just from here on out, and I kind of realized that as I crossed over into the 50s, I have to be just careful because there's no guarantee that I don't have a blockage, but unless I have another incident where I have shortness of breath or any other heart attack type symptoms, and it's not, even that's not a guarantee. We talk about it, and I talked with the doctor about that. Jerry Lawler, the pro wrestler, a guy who's obviously in physical shape and has been all that life, had a heart attack while wrestling in the ring on live television.
No, he wasn't wrestling. He was just doing commentary.
No, he was in the ring because he doesn't. He was. He does. I was watching it live.
Okay.
He does not remember doing that. And because it was one of those things where he was doing commentary, they called him up and he wasn't really a big part of the match, but he was physical in the match. The only reason he's alive today is because they have medics right at the ringside. And I don't know if that's WWE policy or just athletic commission policy, but that's what saved his life. These are the type of people who have the killer heart attacks. I'm 50, I'm in good shape, I'm muscular, I'm doing great. Boom, died of a quick heart attack. Didn't even know he had blockage. A lot of that's because of the foods we eat. High fats, processed foods, sugary foods, again, creating this inflammation. I got inflammation because of diabetes and rheumatoid arthritis. That's all RA is inflammation. So again, we've had a dear friend die of it. 2 friends, if you count Nick, years ago. If even in, oh God, help me, Cory. What was the actor's name who played Black Panther? He passed away.
Chadwick Boseman.
Thank you.
That was cancer.
That was cancer. And most places you can't get a colon screening till you're 50. He was what, 45?
Yeah.
Folks, take care of yourself. Just the funny thing was I told the doc after we're done, well, you know what? You talked me out of going to McDonald's after the visit here today. So I still don't know why I had the allergic reaction all those years ago. I mean, because the hip kind of took everything out. So folks, just, you got to be proactive and take care of yourself. You get, fine reading WebMD and everything, but that's not going to do what you can. Get in to see the doctor. That's all I got to tell you. Mine is I wouldn't say it's a cautionary tale, but for some reason I'm doing all the right stuff. And just make that your story instead of doing all the wrong stuff. And if you happen to find an extra Target Mandalorian, give me a call. I'll give you $50 for it. Cory, what are you freaking on?
Not anything close to as serious as you.
Ugh.
By the time you listen to this, Halloween is over. You know what that means, Joe?
Well, it used to mean Holly would leave me a bowl of her candy that I know I would eat so that I don't dig in her bag, even though I thought I was doing a good deal. Yeah, I would go in and pick out all of her Whoppers, but I would leave a full-size candy bar behind, which infuriated her. But as she's 21 now, and she will be 21 on Halloween, I don't get that anymore.
The day after Halloween begins on the Hallmark Movie Channel, Christmas movies.
You got to have something. We're not going to get any Peanuts special this year.
Yeah, you will. On Apple TV, it's free.
I got
and
2 words for Apple TV.
I have one word for the people who are bitching about it. Ratings. The ratings for the Peanut specials have been in the toilet for the past 5 years. If you cared so much about it, nobody watched it. Should have watched it. They've been out on DVD and VHS for decades. Should have bought them. On Apple TV, they're free, by the way. So you can
now,
instead of complaining,
now.
Well, they were planning on doing that before that because they're desperate to get people to sign up. They're hitting that point where it's been a year. So if you had an Apple product, you got it free for a year. They got to figure out some way to get people to stay subscribed.
Not doing Peacock Network either.
Yeah.
But where in hell's bells do you get the Hallmark Channel?
On cable TV, Hallmark. First off, Hallmark Movies, believe it or not, is one of the highest rated cable channels, but you're not going to hear about it because the average audience is 68 years old. There is only one cable channel with an average audience age higher than that, and that's Fox News. But Hallmark Christmas movies, where all of them are the exact same plot. A girl is working in the big city, but it's the holidays, so she comes home to the small town she's from, where she finds that life is a little more slow, a little more pleasant. Family's around, and there's a hunky guy who's single, usually with a slightly tragic backstory that she can nurse him through. And she decides to give up that life in the big city to return to the small town she grew up in because of this man. There are 40 new variations of this story that are going to be on the Hallmark Movie Channel this year. And at the group on my work at, it's all older ladies. So there will be nothing but the Hallmark Movie Channel from now until New Year's Day.
See, I don't have to worry about that because on the Jason show, they have one of the producers, his name's Ted. He watches Hallmark Channel movies because he loves them, and he rates them as to whether or not there's a kiss in a gazebo or there's a certain actress that has to be in them and things like that. So he'll just review them all, and I just let him do it. He'll give them like so many Hallmark crowns as to whether they're worth watching or not. So what I'll do, Cory, is if I notice there's one that he gives like 4 crowns, I'll let you know so you can go out of your way to watch that one and kind of avoid the rest.
The second thing I am freaky on, Joe. Do you watch? You don't watch the WWE anymore, but do you remember when they brought in the Nexus?
Yes.
And here are these group of badasses who were from Tough Enough and NXT, and they showed up and they kicked mighty ass. And then a couple weeks later, John Cena beat them all of them. They have been building up this group called Retribution all summer long. These are badasses who show up, they take over the show, they beat up everybody, they've kicked everybody out of the production truck, they've cut off electricity to the venue, and now we know who their leader is, and they've all been given stupid names, and they're people from NXT, but they're masked and everything, and they're there to get revenge for having been ignored and mistreated. And the first time they show up on Raw for matches, they get their asses beat by everybody. They lose every single match. Why do you bring in a bunch of badasses and have them lose immediately? That makes no sense at all. If you're bringing in a bunch of badasses, the first thing they do when they're in matches, they cheat, they lie, they steal, they win, so that the baby faces have to come back and figure out how to win. Nope, first matches, they're all beat. All squash matches, too. Boom, done. So basically, these guys were a joke. The only way they could win is if they would sneak in and turn off the lights. Comic-wise, comic fans still piss me off. When UCS said that they were not, when it was announced that UCS was no longer going to distribute DC, oh my God, everybody was like, oh, DC's fucked it up again. DC's they're horrible people, and look at these terrible things they did. And it was a day later that UCS finally just said, no, we're the ones not renewing the contract. DC didn't cut us out. We decided we're not built for this. Oh, well, DC is still terrible. Diamond is supposedly having money trouble, and there are rumors that there are people whose paychecks are starting to show up late. Things like that worry me when it comes to the comic business. And once again, there was one of these indie guys out on the internet who was talking about how comics need to get into the grocery store, and they need to get into here, and they need to get into there. And I just showed him. I just grabbed I don't even post it anymore. I just grabbed the article. Dogman, latest book in September, 5 million copies, first print, #1 book in the world. Not #1 comic, not #1 kids book, not #1 paperback book, not #1 whatever. No, the #1 selling book in the world. It's not on it's not in newsstands because there aren't any newsstands. It's not at grocery stores because grocery stores don't sell that stuff. It's in bookstores, it's in Amazon, and it's in Scholastic. One good thing about the fact that we have more than one distributor, they're not publishing that list of how many estimated sales something is. So we don't get the bullshit of, oh, this comic, Ms. Marvel only sold 15,000 copies. Yeah, but you don't know how many copies it sold through Scholastic. You don't know how many copies it sold through Barnes & Noble. You don't know how many copies it sold through libraries. Joe, what are you geeking on?
All sorts of stuff. Cory, I think it's time, since you got me a little worried with that last bit about Diamond, that maybe we won't be talking about new comics for too much longer. Maybe we should go dig into our old collection and pull out a random comic read. You like that one, or should we change the name?
It's okay.
Okay, we'll find out something better. Anyways, I pulled out a random comic and I read X-Men #25.
That was part of the Fatal Attractions.
Yep, 1993. What was neat is it had a hologram on the cover.
Ooh, holograms.
Yeah, it went through all the books, and this was the only one I recall that was kind of meh was Excalibur. I don't know how the hell that tied into it, but it went through Uncanny X-Men, X-Men, and Wolverine. And when I opened it up, it had kind of a little stiffer cardboard cover, a cool hologram, and I was kind of like, oh my God, it's this hyperkinetic image type art drawn by Andy Kubrick. Kubert.
Not Kubrick.
Kubrick.
You said Kubrick. It's Kubrick.
Oh, I did. Kubert.
As in,
all I know
Joe
is
Kubert's son.
I was kind of shocked because I forgot just how bad some of this art was. And his art is usually pretty good. So very hyper, a lot of cross-hatching. Essentially, Magneto makes a move, F's up the world. And again, I don't know if you want to throw up a spoiler warning for a story that's, over 2 decades old? 3,
Almost
actually.
3.
Yeah. But there were a couple of scenes that were kind of fun. Again, I'm reading just the bits that I have where Professor X is really angry at Magneto, and almost to the point where people are questioning what's wrong with him. He's really not himself. And they go up to whatever was orbiting. I think they called it, was it Exodus? You basically, if you were with Magneto,
or Asteroid M, it was called in some stories.
It was something, because this is where if you were a mutant and you believed in Magneto, you would go up and hang with him. Magneto essentially set off an EMP which wiped out everybody except the X-Men. And there's appearances of Nick Fury and Fantastic Four. Anyway, so they go up, and it was interesting because they get there and they, through the help of Colossus, who apparently had decided to go hang with Magneto and company, they don't realize it, but the X-Men are able to get to the control center easily. And they're like, that was almost too easy, wasn't it? Wolverine's, you suspect an ambush? And Jean's like, just the opposite. I think we ambushed them and they don't even know it. Which was really kind of a refreshing twist, because half the times when the heroes go after the villains, it's like the villains already know it. But the big fight in this one was, of course, Wolverine tagged Magneto really badly. Not in coloring, because they're talking about, look, he drew blood, but you can't really tell by just
looking. The blood is black because it was code approved.
It didn't even that. It looks like, well, okay, I guess there's. To me, I'm looking at the big panel, and it looks more like shards of his costume. Or it could be muscle or whatever. Anyways, Magneto he just says it's over. And it begins with a small tug, almost a gentle pull, a harder yank, then a wrenching tear, and then in a horrific page 42, Magneto pulls all the adamantium out of Wolverine, and he's only alive because of his healing factor and the fact that Genie's kind of shut down his brain to keep him from feeling the pain. Xavier's had enough, and he basically just sucks with a giant, no more, Magnus, no more. Logan will be the last. No one else will ever suffer. He basically sucks the brain out of Magneto. And Magneto collapses in basically a heap of nothing. I never thought you would. And of course, Colossus shows up, says, I'm going to take care of Magneto, and is left alone on this orbiting island. And it goes into Wolverine 75, which started, whatever. I didn't read that because I don't have it. It was kind of a fun little read, more memory than anything. A lot of times I'm finding when I read these comics from 93, and I had my shop then, so believe me, I sold a buttload of these things. Nostalgia picks up better than the actual story was. And of course, Xavier's act, and to this day, I'm still not sure how, but I just think they retroconned it. His act is what spawned Onslaught. We all know what Onslaught did. If you haven't been reading, check it out on Wikipedia. So that was my random comic read for the day. Other reads, I went through book 2 of Mage, The Hero Defined by Matt Wagner. I think I mentioned I was reading it last time. Oh, this was a lot of fun. You get to a point where you don't want to stop. You just want to keep going, keep going, keep going. And now, of course, because there hasn't been a book, well, I'm sorry, what did I say? Book 2, right? This is The Hero Defined. Book 3 has not come out in a big hardcover the way I want. I do have the paperback somewhere. No effing clue where. I got number 2 and number 5. I don't know where the other ones are. I want to read it. Image. Money in the bank. So since I don't have book 3, I pulled out The League of Regrettable Superheroes by John Morris. This is from Quirk, although it could have been from Yo. But this is just a lot of fun. They go through the Silver Age, the Golden Age, or the Modern Age, and the Golden Age, and they just pull out just regrettable heroes. Could be the Clown, or the Music Master, or my favorite, the Eye, or from the Silver Age could be B-Man, or Fat Man, or the Fab Four. Oh, not the Fab Four you're thinking of. In Modern Age, well, they have Rom Space Knight there, which I would disagree with, but they also have Slapstick and Skate Man and 3D Man. So just a lot of fun. You get a couple pages, a synopsis, some artwork, the cover of the magazine, and sometimes the actual pages if there's like nobody around who owns the trademark anymore. And then they also talk about, did they appear somewhere else? So this book should be available. There's also a companion, League of Regrettable Villains, and I'll have to pick that one up because that was a lot of fun. We were talking television earlier. Through the courtesy of HBO Max, I've been able to watch the first 2 episodes of Jodie Whittaker's Doctor Who. And I know people are really...
stuff.
Oh, the first 2 were brilliant. I absolutely loved it. Again, spoiler warning. I kind of wish she didn't find the TARDIS by the end of episode 2. That could have been a season ender. I know there's been a lot of negativity blowback from this, not because Doctor's a woman, but because of subpar storytelling. I haven't watched any of Peter Garibaldi's. Wait, is that his name? Capaldi. Capaldi, thank you, Garibaldi. Where did that one come from? I watched very little of his Doctor Who. I just wanted to jump into this, but I have all of it now. And my wife and I are going way back in Eccleston, going through one at a time. I did sneak down to the bottom of HBO Max, and I saw all the different things. Turner Movie Classic, Adult Swim, DC. I didn't go into DC too much, but they're already taking things off already. What's the point of putting Aquaman on if you're going to pull it in a couple months? Whatever, guys. I did watch a couple comedies, and then my wife and I watched Casablanca because we always watch that once a month. We were talking about Cerebus earlier, and I do want to mention, if you are still interested, by the time this here podcast drops, you will still have about 7 to 10 days to go to Kickstarter and look for Spawn 10 Remastered and Expanded. And you can pick up all sorts of different oodles if you want, from everything for $99 to I think the standard edition is like $10. And he gives some of the artwork and some of the history behind it. Cory, you got a copy of Cerebus #1?
No.
Did you know you can go to the Waverly Press and buy yourself one? These are the Cerebus, the way it was supposed to look.
Cool.
Sim did the art and redid a lot of it, and you can buy different copies. Like the red copy is the standard edition, $10. There's a gold one for $20, a silver one for $30, different sketchbooks, secret history of the counterfeit #1. They're all limited. They're all down to last copies. So if you go to waverlypress.com/books, Cerebus #1, or just do Waverly Press Cerebus 1, you'll see it. Another one that I think was done through Indiegogo was You Don't Know Jack, Two-Fisted Comic Store Manager. It was a 48-page one-shot comic book by Dave Sim and Carson Grubaugh. And it kind of apes the Rob Liefeld Angela in terms of just bad girl heroes. But the cover is brilliant. Nice work, Carson. Unfortunately, you could have drawn something Vaguely Human. I wonder if those boys ever saw a naked woman without breast implants. Actually, in the back, I got a little sketch card from Dave Sim. Unfortunately, they sent it to my dad, John Ryder, instead of me. So, but that's okay. They're just some fun books. I don't know if the Jack one's still available, but if you poke around, you should be able to find it, and you should be able to jump right on it. That's it for me, Corey. What you geeking on?
And last, the whole coronavirus thing. I haven't talked about it a lot, but at the group home, because I switched from one house to another, I had to wear full PPE for 2 weeks. We still have to wear face masks, face shields. When I go out, I see so many people not following the protocols.
You know what was funny? When I went to the doctors, they're all wearing masks. I wonder why.
And they're wearing them for hours on end, too, and they're not complaining.
Yeah. You
And
know what's funny? When I had my hip done, they were all wearing masks.
And over in Japan, they've been wearing those masks for 10 years now because they learned, hey, SARS is dangerous. Why don't we just keep these on? Anyway.
I see them when they used to travel internationally. You know,
Yeah.
they'd always be wearing their masks.
The White House, who is it? Chief of Staff said, we can't control the virus. Now, South Korea and the U.S. had their first infections on the same day. South Korea immediately put in test and trace programs, asked everybody to wear masks. They shut down for a couple of weeks, not like the U.S. shutdown where, well, we're shut down, except you can leave to go here. Trump said it was a hoax. Still says it's a hoax, by the way. The U.S., as of right now, has had 232,000 people die. South Korea had 457 people die. This is leadership. You see a problem and you go, hey, we need to help people correct this. Wear your mask. Now that it's getting colder, more and more people are going to be gathering inside. If you're inside, wear a mask. It's that simple. They've done studies. Between now and the end of the year, if everybody in the U.S. were to wear masks, we'll have 80% fewer deaths than if we don't. And there are people who think that wearing a mask is like telling them that they have to eat live lizards or something. And if one more person says, oh, the Constitution doesn't say I have to, Constitution doesn't say you have to wear pants. But walk outside without pants on and tell me how long before the cops show up and haul you away. Geeking, boy, did I get a lot of those true believers in my last box day. I got the Marvel superheroes with Captain Marvel. I got the Black Widow here. I got the Black Widow meets Spider-Man, where she got her black leather costume. Joe?
Yes.
You do know that that was drawn by Johnny Romita, right? Johnny Romita drawing the Black Widow. Black.
Look at me, I'm drooling already.
Let's see, there's the Daredevil story where she first showed up in Daredevil. There's the Avengers story where she first showed up in the Avengers, but she was a bad guy. Let's see, here's X-Men by Neil Adams. Here's the first issue of Magic, MAGIK, which is the Storm and Liliana miniseries, which must be the most important miniseries in the history of the X-Men, because I swear to God it is in 4 separate omnibuses coming out in 2 months. An issue, The New Mutants, the Paul Smith, X-Men, no, it's Walt Simonson drew this one. First time that Rogue joined the X-Men. And that was, think of that. Think of how cool that is. Having all those books. It was 1, 2, 3, 4. $5, $6, $7, $8, $9. But let's go to the big money book. The other book that showed up that I am just drooling over. Crazy and Ignatz, 1916 to 1918 hardcover. Now, what it is, Fantagraphics put out the Crazy Cat comic strips by George Harriman, starting where Eclipse had cut off. Eclipse had printed all the way up to 1924, and then they went out of business. So Fantagraphics picked it up after that and finished the run. Now they're going back. They went back and did them as paperbacks, but now they're going back and doing them as larger hardcovers printed at the same size as the strip was printed. This is a very niche project. There aren't a lot of people who will be jumping all over this. But if you are a fan of George Harriman's stuff, if you are a fan of the Crazy Cat or Crazy and Ignatz strip, this is utterly beautiful reprinting. This is the best printing I've ever seen on these strips. You get the detail of the brush strokes of the pen. You get the individual pen lines for when he's drawing. You know, when he draws a downpour, he basically would just take the pen and draw, and you can see not just, you can see the actual where the pen hit the paper because it's a little darker there. It's just a beautiful, beautiful reproduction. And in the back, because these strips are over 100 years old, they have some really obscure jokes. In the back, there's basically they explain the jokes. All sorts of back matter, such as articles about why the strip is important, a timeline of what was going on in the newspaper publishing world around it, how they pitched it to other newspapers, articles at the time about how much it was loved. This is the Criterion version of this strip, and one of the best books, one of the best made books I've seen in a while. Fantagraphics is always good about that stuff. And really, that's about all I've had time for. Believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about funny books for an hour and a half, maybe even longer.
And while Cory was blabbing, I went and got myself my copy of Spawn number 10 off of Kickstarter. And then I also noticed Elvira's got her own comic book up on Kickstarter, as well as Steve Rude's got a graphic novel he's pushing on The Coming of Gormando. So check out them Kickstarters. They might be over by the time you listen to this podcast, so don't be left out.
And one of the other cool things about that Steve Rude thing, he is actually doing some live stuff on Facebook, so you can watch him paint every so often.
Cool.
So those are fun videos. And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
I don't feel like a joke today. So, Cory, this is your Halloween gift. Just hit. I feel like dancing. Hit my music.
And there we go.